So in this part of the video series, we're going to be going over how to put the basic frame together. The frame we're working on is the HobbyKing X525 V3. Let's get started. To start, we're going to take the main plate and we're going to insert the nylon screws and tighten them in with the bolts. I've already gone ahead and done 3 of them, and so just to save time, we're just going to do the last one so we can move on with installation. So we'll take the nylon screw as well as the nut. Simply put it into the main plate. Now I already have a general idea of where my power board and ticket board is going to be, so I'm tightening it according to that. It's probably best to hand tighten before you start with the dremel. And with these carbon frames, you don't want to over tighten anything. They could break, and although I haven't experienced it yet, I'm very careful to make sure I don't over tighten anything. You want everything to be a snug tight, preferably tightened with Loctite, but apart from that, you don't want to over tighten anything. I don't think they'd be able to take the stress. So the main plate is done. We can move on. For the next step, we'll be installing the motor mount on to the motor mount assembly arm. Essentially, there's a bunch of screw holes, so you don't want to get confused because there is actually a hole for inserting the landing gear spring mechanism, so you don't want to be covering that hole, for example, with the motor mount. So you just want to be sure that that hole is accessible, and apart from that, it's pretty simple. So let's go ahead. Always remember to use washers in your installation for all of the screws. It's just a better build that way. Okay, now that the screws ready. The screws that we'll be using for the motor mounts are the longer, thinner hex ones, and I have the washer ready to go. You simply just take your motor mount, put it flush on top of the motor arm, feed the screw through. And again, because these arms are aluminum, you don't want to over tighten them or you could actually begin bending the frame. Now I've already gone ahead and done the other 3 arms simply to save time. So I'll show you what the finished product will look like. Make sure everything's nice and tight. Being careful not to over tighten and bend the frame. Okay, feels alright. So this is what your completed arm with the motor mount looks like once you have the bolts installed. And it really doesn't matter which side of the motor mount you decide to use. I think they're the same. And the only thing, like I said, you have to make sure is that you don't cover up this hole, because the landing gear spring mechanism is essentially going to insert through that hole. And these 2 screws are for the landing gear to hold and tighten as well. And these screws will be for your frame. So we move on now to the landing gear. Now for the landing gear, I have them installed and ready to go. But essentially what I can do is show you that it's very easy to put them together, simply because all you really need is 2 of the pieces from the landing gear set, which are provided. You need 2 of the spacers, obviously, and all you're doing is taking the spacers and tightening them in using the smaller silver hex screws, which are also provided. And so the only thing to make note of really is the placement of the screw, because your landing gear is going to be sitting like this on the ground. So one screw has to be in the second hole above the first hole, and the last screw has to be right beneath, essentially at the bottom of the frame, to give it some rigidity, and that's about it. And so we can actually take this once we have this done, and we can begin installing it onto our motor arm. Now, because there's a spring that needs to be installed, some of you may want to install the screw first and then do the spring portion, or you may want to do the spring portion first and then do the screw portion. That's really up to you. I'm going to do the screw portion first, just so we can get along with the installation. Really, it's about how comfortable you feel. And for a cleaner looking installation in the end, if you can just keep track of which side you're putting your screws into, for example, so try doing that for all of your other motor mount arms as well, and so that way when you have your finished platform done, it'll just look a little bit more uniform, a little bit better built, you know. Tighten it in. And with these landing gears, you don't want to over tighten them, simply because you need them to have some play for the spring mechanism to actually work and snap back into place. Show you that in a minute. Now we can go ahead and install the spring. So the spring is a little bit tedious, probably one of the most tedious parts of the installation, and all you're doing is really just inserting it into one side of the landing gear and the other side into the motor mount. I'm sorry I'm not using my desk. Just need more maneuverability. I'm going to use my Allen key to simply bring my spring forward. Hopefully help me insert it. There we go. So basically, when you have your landing gear complete on your motor mount, you'll have a dampening system that will help you when you land on the landing. Okay, so this is done. Now for this portion of the installation, we're going to be basically putting the final parts together. And for the bottom plate, you want to make sure that the writing is facing down, obviously, so when you're looking at the quadcopter, you can see it as you would want to be able to read it, and not the other way around. So we're going to take the smaller, lighter plate which comes with the kit, and we're going to put that on top of the main plate, which we worked on initially, because the screws will be passing through. At this point, we're going to need all of our motor mounts and arms, so we're going to grab them, have them on the floor, all ready to go. And so essentially all we're doing is tightening in the arms onto the frame now. The screws which we'll be using to tighten in the arms into the frame are the bigger hex screws, the thicker ones, with the washer ready to go. So all you do is you take one of your arms, and into the second screw, not the first one, the second screw, you simply insert. Pass it through. And since these are folding arm, it's a folding arm platform, you're going to have that capability once you're done your installation, which is nice. So we'll take our bottom plate, make sure the writing's proper. Insert it through. And we'll just tighten for reference right now. So our first arm is installed onto our frame, and we can continue on to the second one. And it's the same process again. Take your screw, pass it through the main plate, center plate, through the motor mount, and in through the bottom plate. Just tighten it in. I do wish my workspace was a little bit bigger. What can we do? firmly. And our second arm is installed. On to the third one. And repeat the same process. So nice hand to work on. Just to make it a little bit easier to install the arms, I'm going to fold them in for now. I'm starting to like the speech already. And as you can see, if you have the parts laid out and put a little bit of thought into what you're going to be doing, it doesn't take a long time to actually put this frame together. I was able to save a little bit of time by pre-assembling some of the parts. But it's pretty much a repeat process for most of the parts. Okay, so the third arm is installed as well. On to the last and final arm. Put the line here on top of my laptop. In the next part of the video series, we're going to be doing the electronics. So I'll be installing the motors, the ESCs, and the flight control board, as well as the power board. Fold them in again. And essentially we have our frame completed. So I'll make sure we have the steady steps. There are a set of 4 screws which do go into these holders, and they're essentially to lock in the folding mechanism. So we'll go ahead and do that now to finish off the installation. And it's the exact same process with the exact same screws. And so with this screw, it's essentially there to tighten and untighten the frame so you can fold it. So when you have your frame ready to fly, obviously you have to have it tightened into the right position. So right now it's tightened, so it's not moving anywhere, as you can see. It's not flimsy or anything like that. It's perfectly solid, and I'd be okay flying it like this most probably. So I'm going to go ahead and finish off the other 3 arms. We can wrap up our completion of our platform. And always remember to use the washers which are supplied. Every screw needs to have a washer. I would like to mention that in terms of the tools you'll be needing, it's not overly complicated, but at the same time you do need some specific tools. It would be good to have you know, the proper kind of RC tools that you need to put this frame together, but otherwise at the very least you need a wrench. You're going to need some Allen keys of different sizes. I actually have a set of all the different sizes of Allen keys, so that was an issue for me. So I have 3 different sizes of Allen keys. The wrench itself, I'm using a Dremel to tighten certain bolts which are fitting, and apart from that, I don't think you'll be needing anything else. So these 2 arms are tight, that leaves 2 arms, which we'll work on now. One thing I would like to mention is that upon making my second chapter, I realized that HobbyKing is not supplying enough spacers, and it wasn't just something that happened in my case. I found that a lot of people had the same issue. So make sure that if you decide to order the X525 frame, that you do go ahead and order, just to be safe, an extra set of the screws, which you can see in the related items section. And that way, in case your bag is short of any screws, or you need any screws for whatever reason, you have them and you don't have to wait. We all know about HobbyKing's shipping time. Third arm is done. This is our final arm. As you can see, you can still fold. So this is the kind of position you have it in when you're going out to the field, with all of your arms folded, and then when you're ready to go, you simply just pop it into place. And if you have your tools with you, you can tighten them, or you can bring it ready to apply. The only issue I had was with the spacers in my case, so it wasn't as though a lot of screws were missing, or like I wasn't able to complete the build because of any other reason. The spacers are, however, quite important in this build, and I even actually tried to go into my local hardware store to find some, but I wasn't able to. I actually looked for them everywhere in my neighborhood, but even the local supply shop, but usually didn't have them. And the spacers are pretty cool though. Okay, so we have our frame ready to go. This is what it will look like when it's ready. damping landing gears, soften the landing. This is what the bottom frame looks like, and you can read the number. Now the only thing I did notice right now is that I put the bottom plate in backwards, and so if I at some point, to be honest, right now it's not bugging me too much, but in the future I may decide at some point to just flip it around. But otherwise, our frame is ready to go. For video number 3, we're going to work on electronics. If you have any questions, please comment. Please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.